now. Following today's presentation, you will receive a link to the session to use as a reference for you and any of your colleagues. Please feel free to share it with anyone who may be interested. All of you are muted today. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please use the chat feature and I will be monitoring them throughout. I'll let Jim know that we have questions, but we'll probably hold off until the end because we do have a very large audience today. That's really it for me. I'm going to turn it over to Jim and let him get started with his content.
All right, thank you for that introduction. And I'm assuming everyone can see my screen. And with that assumption, we'll get started. We're going to be covering the Deltek CRM today. We're going to be going through some of the areas of the application that you might be familiar with, some areas that might be something that you haven't seen that's new. So we'll try to touch on various areas of technology and functionality in the application. So I'm Jim Klebon, Principal Consultant. I've been with the Deltek products in the consulting for 12 years and been at AE firms in the marketing and business development for 15 prior to that, and implemented Deltek Vision at the last firm I've been with, and I've been with here at Aktion on Vantagepoint for more than 4 years now. So well versed in the Deltek product as it relates to marketing and business development. So today we're going to, as I said, touch on the various areas of the system. So talking about client tracking and intelligence associated with that. Managing the client relations. Going to touch on dashboards and activities and that relationship using both the Smart Summary tool as well as Della. And we'll just look into other areas of functionality, all where I believe I would help you in that CRM, which would be that pursuit or opportunity tracking, client contact relationships, and activities associated with that. And let's get started. So we have some of these screens already pulled up just so we don't have to spend time clicking around to get from spot to spot. So you would typically be going into the hubs areas or the dashboards and things like that to get to these, but I do have them open because I have a lot to cover today and I thought it'd be quicker that way. And as Amy mentioned, if you do have questions, we will take those at the end, but type them in the chat. So pipeline. I'm sure many of you have already implemented Vantagepoint because I saw there looked like there's firms that are still in the considering, that time frame for moving from Vision to Vantagepoint. Others have made the transition. Maybe some of you are doing some of the CRM aspects either as a phase 2 or started rolling it out with your current Vantagepoint application. But any time that you're setting up the application like Vantagepoint, there's standard functionality that you can take advantage of, and then there's capabilities for modifying standard functionality, user-defined fields, which I'm sure you're familiar with. It was available in Vision as well. Allows you to create areas of the application that you might want to just track additional information or build out areas of functionality that might be specific to your needs or requirements, and be able to add that to things like the dashboard. So everything you're seeing here is functionality that is available within the dashboards, but some of the dash parts here might be made up of calculated fields or other fields within the projects hub to track additional information. You have your KPIs here, which are each of the items at the top here. We have our charts and our tables, which are our different areas of the application for how you want to build out your dashboard. Some of these are, as I mentioned, calculated fields, but at least some ideas of where you can use these. And of course, these are just, I'd say, a sampling of what you can do with regards to KPIs. Those being some quick reference information to see why you're in the pipeline dashboard here. Everybody probably wants to build out that pipeline, have it with all the projects that you're pursuing. In here, you can filter by various fields in here. So if I want to Adams projects, I can check that, look at that, use other fields to say maybe I just want the office. I can sort through there as well. So be able to narrow this list down on the screen and get to more information that might be valuable to you. Possibly in a business development meeting, we're reviewing this information and using it through, maybe a web meeting or just in-house at your office. Some other areas here, just kind of breaking it out, but I want to show different types of charts, bar charts and column-based charts. This one's a spline chart that I've created, kind of showing what projects you expect to win during a certain time frame based on an estimated start date. You can turn off some of the parameters here just to look at this information based on in this case, the weighted fees. Having drill down capabilities into the chart here to be able to see all the projects that we expect to be awarded in June here. So again, quick reference. Like I say, this is kind of one forecasting tool just to give me a breakdown of when projects are expected to be awarded, what our monthly goal is, what kind of drops off significantly here from June to July and through August, picks up a little with a large project out in November. But again, using this to at least see what type of projects are, dollar volume of projects for a given time frame out to the future. This is what it would be your pre-awarded stages. Your business development win-loss analysis would be more that post-mortem of the projects and seeing what your hit rates were on these projects. So being able to look at this by revenue or count, average days to close, maybe even looking at promotional costs and having a drill down here too to be able to look at what that $10,000 is in terms of promotional projects that are available or have been created. The hit rate by project type and seeing what's come in terms of fees as well as counts on projects. So again, different ways of looking information and obviously part of that CRM process, maintaining those relationships as they relate to projects you're pursuing, but also being able to look at overall information about your, say, history of projects. So in this case, I'm looking at top 20 list. Here's a feature that I've built into the system, giving me some kind of what I would call ideal customer profile as well as a score. And I probably would have more fields than I have here in a full build out of it, but to be able to kind of measure your clients based on past experience with them at your organization. So having a few firms here based on their scores and where they fall. The green automatically turns that color based on breaking the 75 score threshold there, and just kind of give you an idea of what might be some of your better clients. So as you see too, these names are mentioned down here in some of our top 20 profiles here. So you saw like Eagle Creek and Atlanta Research, Anderson. So these are firms that are, of course, at the tops of these levels here because they are firms that we've identified as that ideal customer. But as you go down, you can see other firms that are in the system and see how they're doing in each of these categories here. And again, these are just a sampling of what you might be doing within the dashboard areas of the application. Taking this information then, looking at these some of these firms that we have maybe aren't firms that we have actual billable projects with. We may have had work with them in the past, and to be able to want to still keep in touch with them. These are firms that might be recurring business clients. So even though you may not have an active projects with them at the moment, always want to be in touch with them to be able to strengthen that relationship. find out if there's any projects coming, maybe talk to new people that have joined the company as an introductory type of situation. So be able to get that information so that you can at least be aware of any changes or, you know, just future efforts that you might have with that client. So coming into a firm here, we have activities tracking, which is that build out of those phone calls or touch points, any meetings that you might have with them, you know, scheduling these out into the future, being able to see this information, due dates. It kind of becomes your to-do list. We'll look at the activities hub, which is, I'd say, an area that allows you more functionality than maybe the activities here, but at least it gives you kind of that breakdown of information and you know, touch points with that firm. The reason why I mentioned the activities hub is that typically you might have multiple firms or contacts you're talking to in a given week or time frame, maybe out into the next 30 days or so. Whereas here I'm concentrating on the one specifically for this firm. Whereas if I'm in the activities hub, I can manage that those relationships out in the future, see all the future phone calls. Maybe there's a few I didn't complete last week and can look backwards as well to see activities that I'm currently involved with. As part of this relationship management, this feature here is Smart Summaries. It is an area of the application that you do need to turn on. So it is in security. Not everyone might have access to it, but it does provide information about your relationship, in this case, Anderson & Associates. Some of this information is available by just clicking on the tabs. What it does allow you to do is see it all in one place. So this might be something that if you have a phone call with someone at Anderson & Associates, you run this smart summary. It'll give you information that, you know, at least be able to have knowledge of in terms of background on a specific project or projects. So it's not just listing just a single project. It is providing you information really in, you know, there's kind of the whole history of this firm. So activities, it is looking at recent activities here. So these are ones that are still coming up and ones that recently completed. So it does give us some of that information with regards to those touch points that I mentioned. Any pursuits that we currently have with this firm. So in this case, we have 4 projects that are in pursuit. Gives us some information about the size of the project, weighted fee, as well as the estimated fee, probabilities. So again, bringing this information into one location, good to bring it up before you call them, or at least review this information so it's fresh. You can copy this into a clipboard and drop it into a Word file if you wish, and have it there as well. You can even provide it as kind of an update to others if they don't have access to the smart summaries. If it's something that maybe they're you know, working with this client on something else, be able to provide some information or details about the background. Not only current pursuits, but also provides this active awarded projects, and it provides, I would say, a fairly detailed description in terms of the, you know, where you're at with regards to project, costs associated, total compensation, revenue, backlog. You know, so it does provide some good information. Just again, is that high-level overview of, you know, what this project is and where we're at in terms of that, you know, yes, completed work to date. So in this case, we have 5 projects that are associated with Anderson Associates, and be able to look at this information as it relates to projects. Even you might be calling them about a specific project and have this available as information in support of that call. Okay. So again, these are completed projects. Those were in progress projects. These are completed projects as well. So again, providing that full level of history of Anderson Associates. Taking that information now from the firm level, we could actually take that to a specific project. So in this case, we have Anderson Associates, and it's the Washington Park project. We can create a smart summary on that specific project. So now it's taking from that firm level information down to the specific project that maybe you're calling that resource at the other firm with, maybe a project manager there, or maybe just someone that is part of what would be the relationship building. But here's the Washington Park. It's awarded, and it takes you down through a little bit more detail than was provided at the firm level, and be able to look at this project now through similar information in terms of what's been billed to date and receivables and such, but also getting down to target multiplier here, effective multiplier, job to date, earned profit, percent completion on the project. Again, giving us recent activities, so it'd be phone calls or other items related to the Washington Park project, or it could just be ones associated specifically with Anderson Associates. And then if you're using planning, give you some information about the planning summary. So again, calling Anderson Associates, you may have both the firm level information that you're using, as well as the actual project that you want to discuss. So again, giving you some detail to be able to feel at least informed about a particular client as you're going into that call. Here I'm in the activities. So in this case, I've created a selection saying I want primary firm is Anderson Associates, and the start date being this month. So I can look at these project activities, and you can see I have a lot of them due this month, but this is a demo database, so might be some data that is a little overlapping, but again, being able to see who at Anderson and your associates you're calling, who you're talking to in terms of maybe a project manager or someone that might be a more of a contact that is part of your relationship building, and see what the different subjects are. And of course, you can then go back to the detailed view for that phone call, follow up with this information to see that I'm logged in as Bill Berry here, talking to Dylan Zimmerman. We also might have some sub-consultants that will be joining us from these firms. So allows us to include other firm information to represent the entire project. Being able to then add your notes to the project and mark it as completed, and it would then fall off that list. I save it. Okay, coming back and be able to continue with our list down to activities here for Anderson Associates. But you might have other searches. In this case, I have one that is an activity range of back 7 days, forward 60 days. So again, be able to look at this as a kind of more of a to-do list. Here happen to be 32 records. And you might want to shorten up the 60 days out, but at least it gives you ability to look backwards, see if there's some things that I've missed. And so be able to continue with that, get the ones that might have been scheduled for last week or a bit further back, complete those items, check them off my list, and continue to move forward. So again, using this as that process of maintaining the relationship, collecting the notes on it, inviting other people, and having this as a true touch point with this firm and all the firms that you are maybe responsible as a owner within the system. When I say owner too, there is a field in here. This happens to be called client manager. It was the owner field. I'd say more firms that I've been working with are beginning to use this, maybe didn't have activities as much tracking or that relationship management in vision, but are looking to roll that out more within the Vantagepoint system. So in this case, changed it to client manager, but this would be the person maintaining the relationship with Anderson and Associates, and be that kind of go-to person for anything that comes up with regards to their relationship, talking to them about future work, and really using that in combination with the activities management to be able to maintain that relationship. Activities was an area that I would say Envision may have not been used as much, but again, it's definitely an area that's being used significantly within Vantagepoint. I've had a number of firms that were using other third-party CRM systems and are now looking to move off of that into Vantagepoint, mainly because of things like the activities, but also the strengthened dashboards that were really not available in Vision, but can be significantly built out now within Vantagepoint and shared across the company, both as a kind of more of that full firm level information. So what I showed on the dashboards was maybe geared towards anyone who's in marketing or business development, maybe project managers who are involved with that process, principals of the firm, and was showing all the information for all the projects in pursuit. There is the ability within dashboards to be able to have it so that you can really narrow it down to certain groups of people based on the user. So in this case, if I come into my dashboards, go into pipeline 2, this one is really asking for a filter or project selection based on your role in the company or your needs. So in this case, if I were to say, I just want to see the records that I'm associated with, I say it uses ISME feature, and it takes that that full dashboard that I showed earlier. It now narrows it down to just the ones I'm responsible for, and I can see that information built out kind of on the fly using the same dash parts that I did on that first dashboard, but now being able to look at it just specifically for the projects are mine. Or again, changing these searches to be say, well, I just want to see it based on maybe all the ones of certain type of project. And so be able to go in, select maybe the something educational or teaching hospitals, and be able to look at it now by that information. So again, giving you flexibility in the build out or selection of the records to be represented in these dash parts. So I am going to try something here that is a new feature in Vantagepoint, and it is I'm going to do this live. I tried to do it as a recording, but I was having a little bit of issue with regards to the sound of being able to be heard on the web meeting. So we will give this a shot. This is I'm in this version here, which is the latest version. It's 25.1. You did have Della and other functionality in the earlier versions, but this is something that I'd say I think came out in the 2025 version. So I'm in the contacts. I'm going to click on Della. I'm going to click on the microphone, and then I'm going to create a contact based on basically talking to Della and have it create that contact record. So clicking on Della, clicking on the microphone. Della, create a contact, Jack Martinson, Senior Vice President at BVA Group. Email jackmartinson@bva.com. Mobile phone number 888-999-0101. So Della just created a new contact, Jack Martinson. Didn't pick up this this BVA group. So there is always wanting to check this information before you hit save. Senior Vice President, this will actually be capitalized when I save it. Did pick up the mobile phone, did pick up the email address. So I'd say anytime you use this feature, you do want to validate the information so that make sure it's correct. But I found it to be very accurate. This one again, typically I've picked it up at Senior Vice President, but I would say what my playing around with this in the new version, it has come across very accurately. So I was quite pleased with the response that I've gotten with regards to Della in using it, but it did provide me with a quick way to enter that information without having to hand key it in. So I was happy with that so far. Then I'm going to create an activity from this as well. So let's try this again. Della, create an activity for Jack Martinson for a phone call on May 18th at 1:30 Central Time. So there we go. Phone call with Jack Martinson, May 18th at 1:30 Central Time. Picked up both the firm as well as entered Jack Martinson in here, as well as created the type as phone call. So we save this, and now it's a new activity that's scheduled out for the 18th for a phone call with Jack Martinson. So this one came away across exactly how I delivered it. I would say as you use it more, it becomes more accustomed what your routine is in terms of entering the data. So I have found that as I've been testing this out more, it's actually gotten much better in terms of the information that I was asking it to add to the system. In fact, this one hit it dead on, I would say, in terms of the information that I provided in the verbal submission of this data. So I was a little nervous about doing this live, but I would say it worked out pretty well. So definitely as you're moving to upgraded or later versions of Vantagepoint, something to take advantage of, as well as those smart summaries have become a feature that was getting better and better. And as Deltek keeps adding more AI functionality to the system, I do think it's going to be things that we take greater advantage of moving forward, as this might be the year of artificial intelligence in software. So we anticipate to have greater tools available for that. One other area I wanted to touch on is the Vantagepoint Connect for Outlook. I've done demos of this before, just smaller groups when people have requested it. It is something that I would say that is getting much more requests for this as firms are beginning to use more activities in Vantagepoint, that this tool is something that they want to add as well to support the activities tracking, even if it's just as much as to be able to track incoming emails that have been sent and save those back into Vantagepoint. So in this case, I have a couple email addresses. This is just kind of to give you an idea how I'm setting this up. I'm using a Yahoo account here, as well as a Gmail account of mine, and using those to represent contacts in the Deltek Vantagepoint application. I have a new toolbar here that when you install the API for the connection between your Vantagepoint application and Outlook, this would then appear. This is kind of a two-step process to install this. Once you have to make the connection between Vantagepoint and Outlook, and then once that's established, then install the app to that is this application that's now running. In this case, it's really running alongside your Outlook. This is a version basically of Vantagepoint running just within the space of your Outlook. This is live database, live access to your Vantagepoint system. So in this case, it saw this email and it shows that Charles Dawson is using my Yahoo account and Ted Jordan is using my Gmail account. So as soon as it recognized this email, it went out to Vantagepoint to look for this information. pulling up this information, I see that Charles Dawson works Dawson Developers. He's the owner of the firm. I can see activities I've had with Charles Dawson. I can click on these activities, and these are the activities that I showed earlier in the activities portion of the Vantagepoint. So this is information with regards to the subject being the first class lounge, when that date is for the start date, whether it's completed or not, really details associated with this activity, attendees, as well as firms that were on that call as well. So you can see a list of those. All of these can be clicked on. All of them can be updated as well. So anywhere you see the little pencil that comes up, so let me go into contact details here. I can actually edit this information from here, and it will edit it back into Vantagepoint, as this is really Vantagepoint running within this pane within your Outlook. The security holds true for Outlook Connect. So if you don't have the ability to update or add contacts from within your Vantagepoint application, you won't be able to do it here. If you have read-only access in Vantagepoint, that read-only would be here as well. So just wanted to make sure that everyone's aware that that security holds true. In addition to finding the people that were associated with this email coming in, it also looks for other information associated with those, and it's all tied to those email addresses. So in this case, I have Charles and Ted. Well, Charles worked for Dawson Developers, so I have firm information about Dawson Developers. I have the information about Anderson Construction, which is where Ted Jordan works. And then it also pulls up projects that are associated with those firms. So I can see this Kendall Yards assessment. I can see milestones associated with it. I can see team members associated with this that were on it. Clicking on these team members even gets me more information about each of these individuals. I can see details on the project. It's not every single field that you get within Vantagepoint, but it's a pretty good representation to give you information about the contacts, firm level information, the projects. So long list of information tied to those emails through those contacts, the firm records, as well as the projects, as both in pursuit projects, as well as active projects, as well as inactive projects. I can also search here too. Since I'm accessing the database directly, I can click in here, and these aren't tied to the email addresses, but I just want to see information on Betty Fowler, or maybe it was Patty Fowler, or Tammy Johnson, who worked at Fowler Architecture. So again, it's looking for information based on what I typed into the search command here. So again, giving us a lot of information with regards to what's available from this pane. This email was saved back into Vantagepoint. So it has this little blue icon, which indicates that it was saved back in. Also shows that it was tracked successfully, as well as this blue icon here for Vantagepoint. If I click on another email, it now goes out and finds information again specifically about the email that I've clicked on. This one has not been logged into the system, but I could do so by logging it in here. So quick information that provided you with regards to emails also allows me to create new contacts, add firms, add activities. So again, being able to interface information from this location directly back into your Vantagepoint application. It also allows me to create activities. So didn't want to close that, pin it back open. But if I wanted to add an activity, I can do that for here. It would save it to here. It would save it back into the activities within Vantagepoint, but it would also sync to my Outlook calendar. So there's the ability to create activities in Outlook directly, save it into Outlook, and associate it back within to Vantagepoint through the categories. So I'm just going to open a quick calendar item here. So Trying to pull it over. Come on. Well, let's try this again. It's a little, there we go. So I could add a title, new meeting, invite people to this. So I can invite the people that were like Charles Dawson or others. And if I pick somebody who's not tied to our Vantagepoint, I could enter them in a separate and then tie them back. In this case, it would just be saved back to Charles Dawson. But if I categorize it saying I wanted to sync with Vantagepoint, it will now appear on my calendar in Outlook. It will appear on my calendar in Vantagepoint, and it will create a activity in Vantagepoint as well. So allows me to sync that information through the calendar. And also, if I have contacts that I am associated with in Vantagepoint, I can have those people then sync to my Outlook contacts as well, and it will separate them from my other contacts within Vantagepoint. So again, I'm sure some of you have experienced, there we go. So it actually, when I install the Vantagepoint Connect for Outlook, it adds a new folder, and it's just the people that I'm synced with in my Vantagepoint. And so it separates the contacts that I have in my contacts folder in Outlook by creating a new folder, and it's just my Vantagepoint contacts. Okay. I know I went pretty fast through some of these things. I know we didn't have a lot of time. So if there are questions, let's go through those now. Is there anything that's come up?
So far, we have one question.
Only one?
It is, how do we get the verbiage, a selected dashboard filter to define criteria to display in the dash part? Is this new in 7.0?
So the data that we want to select in the dash part, is that what? Is that
select the dashboard filter to define criteria to display in the dash part?
Okay, so that was in my, I think it was in my pipeline 2. So this is set up so that it is no filter is selected. How you do that is if you come into the edit mode here, you go into options, and here's my, there we go, pipeline 2 dashboard, which is the one we were looking at. You show that the filter, in this case, they were all project dash parts. And here, when you check on this checkbox to require the filter, that's where they all show up being blank and allows you to see that selection criteria. First, picking the filter here allows you to see that filter in the dash part. By requiring it is what drives the fact that they show up as kind of empty like this. So it's telling me that I have to select it from here to populate the dash parts. So it's not a new feature. It's been around for a while. I don't know if it's been there since day one of Vantagepoint, but it is a feature that I think many people aren't aware of. So yes, that options is where you control that. And then you can build out the, these saved searches carry out through the whole system in terms of, so I'm in the projects here, these saved searches would show up in the projects. I'll be here on the projects dashboard that I have here, and allows you to select these based on the criteria you have set up. Hopefully that answered, that was a question fully.
Okay.
Other questions?
Can you show the actual, this is from the same person, can you show the actual sync of the email from Outlook to Vantagepoint process again? What is selected to push the sync?
Mm-hmm. So if I go back to my Outlook, and so in this case, all I have to do is select I just close that. Select the email that I want, and then come back and hit log email. So this will push it back into Vantagepoint. It pulls up the screen here and see if I want to make any changes, maybe add a specific project. So in this case, it's the Amtrak project. So let's select that one. So Amtrak First Class Lounge. I could also save it to the promotional project, but not really tracking any information on the promotional project. If there's any additional detail, maybe it was part of a marketing campaign or some other location. So update that information, save it. And now it will show that it's logged in, and it changed both these people, because since they're both tied to this email, it's now logged in for Charles Dawson, it's logged in for Ted Jordan. And if I go down to any of these other areas of the system where it was applicable, so these firms, it's tied to that record now. And if I went to that Amtrak project, so you see it wasn't tied to the Kendall's yard site. So if I scroll down, found that Amtrak project, it's now going to say logged in there. So everywhere that relationship existed in terms of the contact, the firm, and the project I selected, it will now be logged into those locations on the activities tab within those different hubs.
All right. She says, thank you. We've got one more question.
Good.
How difficult is it to load a large collection of existing contacts to the CRM?
So large volume of existing contacts. So there's import functionality for those. Typically, I have templates that can be populated based on those records. But if you already, let's say, have it in Excel, what you're going to want to do is there will be some data preparation. So if the name field is one field, you're going to want to break it out into first name, last name. So there is some cleanup that would have to happen with regards to the preparation of that data in Excel. We would save it to a CSV file and then import that information into Vantagepoint, and having that then pushed basically into the system through that import, so that we could access that data now directly in Vantagepoint through setup of that information. Now, preparation, most important part of that process. So if you haven't imported a lot of data in your past, it's definitely something I would reach out before you start experimenting with it, especially in your production account. If you have a sandbox or other preview environment, if you're going to take your first swing at importing data, definitely use a sandbox to do that. And just start with a couple imports. So depending on what you're importing to, you mentioned contacts, but usually there's a firm record associated with that. So again, you might want to break out the firm records and contacts as two separate imports. But yes, there definitely is a way of getting that data into the application.
Awesome. We have another one. What is the difference between logging emails to Vantagepoint versus publishing to Deltek PIM? Are there advantages or disadvantages of either in the case of CRM?
There's two different areas. They do different things, I would say. A lot of firms may not be using PIM, so they're using the Vantagepoint Connect to log that information. It kind of depends on what functionality you're using. Again, too, maybe there might be some limited access to PIM by certain users in the company. So this would at least give them the ability to have those activities tracked back into Vantagepoint. It kind of is one of those things that you'd want to make sure that you kind of compare the two, see how you're going to use it, set up different rules or processes in terms of what might be using Vantagepoint Connect or Outlook, or using the PIM functionality as that full process. So I'd say it's the Vantagepoint Connect probably is more limited in some of the functionality that PIM offers. So definitely want to compare them.
All right. Looks like that's all the questions. Does anybody else have any questions before we wrap up for today?
All right.
Doesn't look like it. So
Mm.
I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and thank you, Jim, for a great presentation. As I said at the beginning of today's session, it was recorded, and I will send out a link to the recording once it processes, either later today or tomorrow morning. You'll see that link. Thanks again, everyone, and have an amazing day.
All right. Thank you again, too. Take care.
Bye, everyone.